Alright, I know I took last week off, but I'm not gonna lie, last week's TWID wasn't exactly entertaining, personally. But aside from that, there is some details in this TWID I wanted to go over, because there is some questions asked that is basically just a, how do I say this? It's some questions from the community that Bungie wanted to put their response to. So, starting off from the top, we have a variety of pride in the details. So, apparently they added a new emote that is a rainbow emote for y'all, in case you wanted it. Which, I believe this right here is the free redeemable code for it if you wanted to go to bungie.net/redeem. But then as well, if you wanted last year's rainbow transmat that you may have been seeing around but didn't have it, I believe that is the code for it as well there. And of course, share with your own celebrations of Pride Month at Destiny the Game and Destiny 2 Team to see how you are celebrating, I suppose, just Pride Month. Now, there is some questions about the Sandbox that have been asked and going forward. So, I'm going to do a quick 1-2 on some of these. I'll say the full question, but then the summary of some of them, because they can get a bit lengthy. Now, start first in PvE, ability uptime is very high and increased despite global changes to base cooldowns. What are the current thoughts on ability energy? Basically, they want to keep tuning it so we don't abuse it, but still want us to have ability uptime so that we can have space magic fantasies without it becoming overpowered. With aspects, armor mods, and artifact perks that rely on players being able to throw or destroy tangles, the cooldown can feel a little frustrating. What is the intent behind cooldown creation? Basically, if cooldown is too low, the battlefield becomes chaotic with random explosions. However, the tangle cooldown is being reduced from 15 seconds to 12 next season. Broodweavers, aka Strand Warlock, is intended to be the minion masters of Strand, but Threadlings can feel underwhelming and high in content, especially with the potency of Strand. Is there any plans to adjust the relationship going forward? Basically, PvE Threadling damage is going to be increased and reducing the duration of suspend in competition with that, as well as making a change to Broodweave's newest Strand aspect, the Wanderer, to address feedback. Now, how does the team feel about the current speed of grenades? Basically, they feel competent in most grenades, that some are currently viable enough, but we'll be taking a pass at a few underperforming grenade options in the future, and we'll evaluate over and underperforming options. In terms of hand cannons, now this is a bit of a long one. Hand cannons, can they get a buff? Not quite Shadowkeep, but at least something. And they do agree. Hand cannons got an extra 20% damage buff in Season 20, but that didn't move the needle as much as it is. But due to smaller reload speed and all that sort of thing, and variety of that, so, you know, there's going to be a little bit change, because I'm not going to lie, I was running through something, and I forget what it was. I think it was a Lost Sector. Had a hand cannon, put it right into the brain of a basic Acolyte, and it was left with 1% health. So, aside from that, they're increasing the reload speed at 0 stat by 15%. This benefit scales down at an increasing stat, with the 100 stat being unchanged. This is a substantial benefit to hand cannons with low reload stat, which includes most aggressive and precision frames. Now, in general, they're going to be getting a PvE damage buff against minors by 20% and against majors by 75%. And hand cannon burst fires. So, if you don't know, Warden's Law is a old aggressive frame hand cannon that fired 2 rounds at the same time. This is going to be the first member of a new subfamily coming eventually, I hope, called the Heavy Burst Hand Cannon. This will fire a 2-round burst, which is more overall satisfying to use than the previous version. Actually, no. I don't know. I don't know if it's a 1-2 or 2 at once. I hope it's still 2 at once. I just preferred that more. Now, kinetic weapons seem to be falling behind as builds get more intricate. Is there any plans to make up more or interesting ways to help them integrate? Now, basically, they're saying that, yes, they added the damage buff over them and things like kinetic tremors, but we'll be looking into more strand and stasis weapons to spice up the kinetic slot. But maybe they also tease or at least poke fun at the idea of a kinetic subclass. Then, the current state of glaives and exotics. Now, they got a substantial tuning pass coming in a future season, currently 2 seasons after this current one. Make them better for PvP, and also not happy with the state of current class exotic glaives, which is expected. They are adjusting how players activate the exotic perk along with other changes. Now, this is a long one. How do you determine what gets nerfed and what gets buffed? Those parameters change season over season. Now, that is a long one, so I will skip to the bit because there's a lot of reasons why, but it's basically how often things are used, how things aren't used, if they're a little bit more favored than others, and a variety of options that I will not get into as they are intricate reasons. Then, any further exotic tuning plan for the future, and what is the thought behind tuned things? So, Small list of exotic weapons coming next season is basically PvP nerf to Le Monarch, buff to Touch and Malice, and a couple of minor changes to other exotics, and some tweaks to legendary perks such as Bipod, Shoot Elite, and Over Under. Also, bear in mind that the Zoom to Damage Fall-Off Normalization and Sword Guard rework are coming next season, as well as affecting exotic weapons. We pulled several well-tested changes from Season 22 into Season 21 mid-season balance update, and we'll be talking shortly about it before it ships. And as usual, we made an exotic catalyst for an older weapon in Season 22, and this one has been heavily requested, and it is likely the most complex catalyst we ever made. The process for exotic tuning is looking at pain points over or under performing weapons. The process for exotic tuning is looking at pain points around... Oh wait, I think I just read the same thing. Bleh. Okay, and then we get to armor and build crafting. Now, my favorite exotic armor could use a buff. Any plans to continue balancing legacy exotic armor? Basically, they're always looking to improve things to underperform, and you can look forward to a new batch of buffs coming next season. Explaining the change to Stompies. Basically, Stompies as their own were oppressive, considering anybody could dodge anything more easily on any hunter subclass. Now they made a change to make it so that it is a little bit less potent, as it is not permanently able to give you those benefits as long as you have the dodge, and using the dodge is an incentive because they have several buffs that can, apply. Then as well, are there plans for more exotic armor interactions with exotic weapons like Necrotic Grip or with the Weapons of Sorrow? And they are indeed looking at that and are looking out for more changes, especially for Hunters and Titans. Will we ever see any of the pre-Lightfall armor mods come back? Basically, they're running with a simpler system now, but we'll always be looking for fun ways for that to change in various seasonal artifacts. Then miscellaneous questions. They talk about favoriting shaders, and they're going to be sharing info on new features in this phase soon. And any details confirmations regarding HUD or UI updates that were previously mentioned, and we'll talk more about that, something to show closer to the final shape. Now, of course, they talk about Saladin for Iron Banner, of course, new emblem, so if you want a new emblem, play Iron Banner. And then the various entries for Drown in the Drip, which I don't know if these are winners, but let's see. To pick a few was difficult, but we did our best. Here are some of the top looks that we couldn't get out of our minds. Now, I'm not gonna lie, some of these look awesome. Like this moth look, I find it unique and original. But there's other ones that, that are personal. You can tell, I know I've seen this from somebody else already 100 times before. I don't know how this one got submitted now, and it's getting... I just know this is old. That Patrick one, I know that one's around. This one I enjoy because he's got each of his Guardians loadouts looking like Power Rangers. I know I do something similar. For every elemental loadout, I have a different look that's, synergetic to it. But, there's a part of me that says ones that are not original that they're making for... with not... inspired. Yoda, The Mask, Miles Morales down here. There's a part of me that says, be creative, don't just rip off something else and make it a new game and say it's fashion. Because it's not your fashion, you're modding your fashion to look like something else. But everyone else that had original ideas, I approve of all of them. They're genuinely good looking. I actually approve of Bungie's resorts in that, especially this Taken King one, Disciple. Very dark Guardian. Then, as well, we get some more art, which, if you didn't know, there was a bunch of PlayStation or Sony artists that were doing work on the Destiny 2 collab, basically making some art inspired by the Destiny crossover in their origin places. So, if you wanted some cool-looking Sony art, oh, I actually like that. That looks pretty freaking cool. I'm not a fan of Horizon Zero Dawn, but I do approve of that. As well as various other things. Now, then, of course, there is the thing of what is broken. Now, the Trials of Osiris emblem, if you didn't know, there was an emblem that was dropping from the Flawless chest when there was more specific requirements for it. Basically, if you did not successfully create the criteria or not successfully earn the Flight of the Pigeon medal for every match played, players who previously earned the emblem without earning the Flight of the Pigeon medal in all games will continue to have it unlocked in their inventory. However, they will be unable to equip the emblem until the requirements have been met. So if you have a Trials emblem in your inventory that you try to equip and won't let you, that's because you didn't do the specific criteria for it. Then, for known issues, basically, the Strand Slayer Crucible bounty is not progressing with Strand primary weapon kills. Players can die from finishers if the enemy dies before the finisher animation completes. I have noticed that a few times. The Efficient Angler seasonal challenges is progressing inconsistently. The Crucible competitive placement series does not drop the Mercurial Overreach sniper rifle. Dexterity mods are not granting a benefit to weapon ready and stow speed. Players get stuck outside of the final boss arena after self-arriving in Ghosts of the Deep. The Bump of the Night weapon pattern triumph requires the Season 17 Season Pass, and the Warlock Corporeal Long Coat Chest ornament has a gap between the right arm. And for some reason it's blacked out, but we can see it right there. For a full list of emerging issues in Destiny 2, players can review the known issues article to find them, or who observe other issues to report them to the help forum. Then, of course, we have the usual movies and arts of the week going through, an amazing looking Warlock cosplay, and then a nice little piece of Zavala and Keitel hanging out. But that is the last of this week in Destiny. Still kind of feels weird saying that because I didn't say the first one last week. But with that, that is the end of the TWID. My name is Matt Scorpion. I will see you in the next video. And if you wouldn't mind, a subscription would definitely help out the channel. I'll see you then.